Adam Finkel. I teach at the University of Michigan. I used to be the chief regulator at the administration and the Clinton administration. And I've presented some of this before. I've not made a lot of progress in the last 6 months for various reasons, but I have some new things to present. But basically, this is a US-centric presentation and project, and Vicki Beer is going to pick it up after I finish. And the theme is that most of the health, safety, environmental, regulatory, food and drug agencies of the US were created mostly in the 50s through 70s, and they have not changed at all structurally in that half century or more. And for the last 2 years, and presumably for the next year and a half, the agencies will continue to be hollowed out, decimated, shut down, replaced with people with no interest in their missions. And that's a terrible thing, but it's also an opportunity to rebuild, the metaphor being out of the ashes of these agencies, structures and missions and functions that could never have been built before, because they've been sort of running on autopilot for all these years. And the natural tendency, I've seen this in transitions from either party to the other in my career, is to get back into power and immediately on the first day pretend that the last 4 years or 8 years had not happened, and we're going to do what we were doing at noon on the last day that we were here. And I think that would be a terrible waste of an opportunity here. So again, the theme is the agencies are in dry dock and can be relaunched with lessons learned from the last half century. I won't go over the scale of what's being done, but the budget's being cut, agencies being closed down. Here's a FDA organizational chart with all the vacancies at the top. I'll talk in a minute about a new Supreme Court decision that has changed a lot of things. And Mr. Trump is now free to fire people at will and put in his own folks. And this is just in the last few days, the person who's now going to be heading the Global Climate Change Initiative is a notorious amateur and a denier, and has a blog called Irrational Fear about climate change. Just want to say, I didn't present this slide last time. We have done this before. So my theme is more structural and reorganizational. Vicki is going to talk more about service delivery and mission. But I'm going to present a couple of quick ideas for reorganization. We have done this before. Right after 9/11, there was a huge reorganization of 22 different agencies into the newly created Department of Homeland Security. And you can say that that was a success or a failure, but certainly when there is the will to do that, our country has done a lot of reshuffling of personnel, oversight, and structure. So here's a couple of quick ideas. One from our colleague Joe Rodericks, who was at the FDA for many years. And this is not a brand new idea, but he's reintroducing it, that really food and drug should not be in the same place, that the drug part of FDA is doing pretty well, but the food part is not. It's competing with USDA, EPA, other parts of FDA, and there should be a single agency doing food safety, not just additives and pesticides, but nutrition. My pet idea for many, many years, having worked at both OSHA and EPA, is that we should create an agency whose job it is to study, regulate, enforce, and work with stakeholders on chemical exposures from cradle to grave, not splitting it into the 9 to 5 exposures that workers face, which are orders of magnitude, maybe 10,000 times greater than what people in the community face, and then the 5 to 9 portion, which is EPA's job, and where they have 20 times the budget to do the smaller half of the problem. And the two agencies work at cross purposes, and that's what that slide was about. And the whole notion of environmental justice, which is long overdue, is missing the boat, because we're looking at heat maps of exposures in communities, but only the outdoor or the home community exposures, not the same exposures the same people face from 9 to 5 when they commute within their census tract or go to a nearby tract to work. So if you look at Michigan, this is a student of ours at Michigan, if you just add together the environmental exposures and the occupational, the map of where the most unjust things are occurring changes dramatically. So just a couple of updates since February. 5 of us, me and Vicky and Rob Goebel, who's on the line, Martha Roberts from NYU Law School, and the 5th person I'm forgetting, and I'll remember it in a minute, are doing a series of essays in the University of Pennsylvania Law School blog called The Regulatory Review. Should be out within 3 or 4 weeks, I think, a week-long set of essays on these very topics. One other thing before I turn it over to Vicky, just within the last 10 days or so, Pete Buttigieg, who was Secretary of Transportation under Biden and presumably is running for president in 29 and 28, gave a really interesting interview for a new publication called Notice. And he says exactly what I and others have been saying. I worry that there's going to be a strong temptation to adopt a kind of return to normalcy agenda. And normalcy is not possible anymore because of what's happened, but also not desirable. And then I just mentioned briefly, Supreme Court last week has struck down their own 90-year-old precedent and is now allowing the president to hire and fire at will the heads and the commissioners of about 30 or 40 so-called independent agencies, which are now becoming at-will agencies of the executive. So there will be people fired in the next days and weeks and months. And I think we need to also be prepared to hire new people. And so this is yesterday's New York Times, a new book about the Trump presidency. And I highlighted one sentence from this meeting of oil and gas companies who got not only everything they wanted, but things they didn't even dream about asking for. And one of them said to the reporter, "Boy, I would never want a Democrat to have that kind of executive authority." Well, guess what? We hope that is going to happen in a little over 2 years. So Facebook group out of their ashes, and hope people will join us. And we're going to be talking about that later on this morning in a workshop.